So let's go ahead and use properties of quadratic functions to help us graph the quadratic function. And as you recall, this is the standard form of a quadratic function. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And the example we're going to do now is f of x equals 4x squared minus 9. So you should be noticing something special about this quadratic function. And if you're saying it doesn't have a middle term, then you're right. So we have our a is 4, our b is 0 because we have no middle term, and our c is negative 9. And our parabola is going to open upward. Again, that's because our a is 4 and that's a positive number. Okay, that means that our vertex is going to be our lowest point on the graph. It's going to be giving us a minimum value there. So let's go ahead and calculate the vertex. Use the vertex formula. We know that the x-coordinate is going to be equal to the opposite of b over 2a. And so b is 0, right? So that means that our x-coordinate for our vertex is 0. And now let's find the y-coordinate by substituting in 0 for x into the equation. And so f of 0 is 4 0 squared minus 9, or negative 9. So our vertex is 0, negative 9, and do you recognize that point? Well, as you know, an ordered pair where the x-coordinate is 0 will be a y-intercept, right? So this vertex is also the y-intercept for our parabola. The axis of symmetry is the vertical line that's going to go through that vertex. So that's going to be given by the equation x equals 0. Remembering again that x equals a number is the general equation of a vertical line, right? And our vertical line has to go through 0, negative 9, the vertex, so x must be 0. The x-intercepts. Okay, so now we're going to set y to 0. So we have 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. And there's a couple of ways to solve this quadratic equation. I'm kind of seeing the difference of squares here in our factoring. So I'm going to do 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. And we can set these two factors to equal to 0 to solve for x. And so here we're going to get that 2x equals 3 halves. 2x equals 3, so x is 3 halves. And here we get 2x equals negative 3, so x is negative 3 halves. And again, remembering that those are x-coordinates for two intercepts, and the y-coordinates are going to be 0, right? Because that's how we picked it, that y was 0. So 3 halves 0 and negative 3 halves 0 are going to be our two x-intercepts for our parabola. You know what? Let's go ahead and graph those 3 points right now, the vertex and the two x-intercepts. So again, the vertex was 0, negative 9. So there we go. We're going to put that there. And then we have an x-intercept as 3 halves 0, which is 1.5 0. And another x-intercept at negative 3 halves 0. And we already discussed how the y-axis is the axis of symmetry. And the y-axis has equation x equals 0. So notice how our intercepts are on either side of the y-axis the way they should be. That's because that's our axis of symmetry. Okay, let's go back up, and I think we're almost there, weren't we? The y-intercept we already found because it's the vertex, 0, negative 9. And now they want us to find f of negative 2. So let's substitute in f of negative 2 and x of negative 2. So 4x squared minus 9. And then I'm going to square this negative 2, which gives me 4 times 4 minus 9, 16 minus 9, or 7. So I have a point at negative 2, 7. So -2 and up 7. And of course, because this y-axis is splitting my parabola into 2 equal halves, that means there must be another point over here on this side at +2, 7. All right, I think we're ready to graph. So notice that with our middle term being gone, that we ended up having an vertex that was on the y-axis. And that so our vertex was not only the vertex, but it was also the y-intercept of the parabola. And then our x-intercepts are on either side of the y-axis. So that's neat. So now to do a bit of review, what's the domain of this function? If you said all real numbers, you're right. And that's our interval notation for all real numbers. And then what's the range? Well, again, our vertex is the lowest point, so that gives us our smallest y value, which is at -9. And the vertex hits that -9. And then because our parabola is going to go up forever, then our range is from -9 to infinity. So all real numbers that are bigger than or equal to -9.